I know that there are things that come to my mind that don't come from me, they come through me. I feel like I am divinely guided when I move into that state with you, even though
In a world of hurt and pain, we find our way to break the chain. A caring heart, a guiding light, lead us through the darkest night. With preservation in our soul, we'll rescue those who've lost control. Escape the grip of a narcissist on our journey to recovery bliss. Welcome to the Narcissist Abuse Recovery Channel with Jon McKenney and Padideh Jafari.
Padideh, it's good to see you again. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well. I know your birthday's coming up. What is it, tomorrow?
It is tomorrow. 29 again.
Oh my.
Something like that.
Yeah, right.
My great aunt, who, by the way, she passed last year, but she was my favorite aunt probably, and I was the closest with her. She told me that once she hit 50, she started counting backwards, and I thought that was a really good plan. And by the way, she also told me that I could call her my great aunt. She'd prefer to be called aunt, but she said that I could call her my great aunt only if great was an adjective. So I did that a lot. Said great aunt.
Oh my goodness.
She was amazing.
So I have two great nephews, and they can call me great aunt anytime they want. Although one of them barely speaks because he's 9 months, and then the other one is almost 4. So they're the cutest things ever. So
Yeah, a nephew that barely speaks sounds great.
oh, he's 9 months. He's the cutest thing ever.
Aw, that's amazing. I'll bet you're a really good great aunt.
I am. I've shown you pictures of them.
I have. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. Well, today we have a fantastic guest with us, Miss Laura Temin, and she is the owner of an organization called Achievement Strategies over in Roswell, Georgia, and she does therapy and hypnotherapy. And full disclosure, she's actually my therapist, I don't mind saying. In fact, she's really helped me tremendously. And I've talked about her in our podcast without her knowing about it yet. I don't think she's gone through them all. But I've said, believe it or not, Laura, I've said really good things about you.
of course I believe it.
Yeah, you should. You should, because they're really good.
Yes.
Thank you.
So Laura, you have helped some people through. You help people through a lot of crises, and it's not just can I quit smoking or can I lose weight, and you do those kinds of things as well. But it's also people with some deeper emotional trauma, and even some of those who have gone through narcissistic abuse, like myself. Can you describe what those people are like when they come to you?
Well, when a person has an experience of living or being a partner with or having to deal with a relationship with somebody who has a narcissism, or really often it's not just narcissism. When people have a history of trauma, severe trauma, and they haven't really addressed it, they haven't really resolved it, it's a similar thing. But when a person has a history of being with somebody who has a narcissistic personality disorder, um, they they're filled with self-doubt. They feel insecure. It's kind of like crazy making for a person. Um, and and what you're really dealing with is because you're questioning yourself, right? Is it me? Is it them? And I don't have to tell you because you already know, and whoever your audience is, they know also. There's hypervigilance that people have to deal with, um, feeling safe, feeling secure, trusting themselves, trusting other people. I mean, there is so much that is related to that relationship.
Yeah, trauma is a really, I think, a good word to describe a lot of the narcissists, those who've been abused by narcissists that I've encountered too. I do some coaching here and there for people as well, and I see a lot of depression. I see a lot of financial abuse against these people. I see a lot of weaponizing kids against these people, and unfortunately, I would guess that by the time they kind of find their way to you, they're really at their lowest point.
Absolutely. I mean, according to Dr. Gottman, who's a relationship expert, he says that people don't even go for help with a therapist for 7 years. And
Wow.
and I think he was speaking about marriage counseling in particular. But it's true because first we try to figure things out ourselves. I mean, no one's going to right away go to a therapist. They're going to try and figure it out themselves. And it's a long process, I think, before a person gets to me.
Yeah, Padideh, how long was it before you kind of sought therapy?
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Um, I would say it was kind of weird for me because I was a divorce attorney, stuck in a narcissistic abusive marriage, not really knowing that it was narcissistic. I just thought he was toxic and had a sex addiction that I could somehow cure. And so we started to go, I think, around, I would say, the 3 year mark of our marriage to a Christian counselor. And basically, I told the Christian counselor that everything was my fault because that's what I believed from the person. And I said, What do I need to do to keep this marriage?" And she really didn't do much justice to me because she named off a bunch of things I needed to do, like be more sexually active with my husband, which was almost impossible, right? And she did want to see him and she gave him a book about sex addiction, which he never read.
I'm
So
sure.
we went through several therapists after that because I was trying to fix me because he was not acknowledging that there was anything wrong with him. So I would say with the 3 year mark, but really it was it really didn't help much, to be honest with you, until I sought my own therapist, and then my own therapist wanted to meet him, and then he said, "I need to get out or he was going to kill me." So, it was a journey with the
I'm
therapist.
not surprised.
Laura, is that common where the victims actually find their is it common where the victims actually think they're the problem?
Yes, that's what I have found in my experience. And there's somebody who I had seen not too long ago who kind of approached me in the same way that Padita, you just described. And she said, "I really love my husband. They were already divorced, um, but they were still living together, and she wanted to make this relationship work. And she had in her mind this vision of who he was in the beginning. And so, this is the wishful thinking part that we all have when we meet somebody, that they are a certain way, and so we fall in love with that image or that belief, that experience, and then when it changes, we think it's us, and so we do all these things. We turn ourselves inside out, particularly women do, turn ourselves inside out to meet that person's needs, but nothing ever does. And when she talked to me, now she came to me for hypnotherapy. She didn't come to me for marriage counseling. So I'm licensed as a marriage counselor, but also my passion is the hypnotherapy because it works with the feelings, and the feelings override the logic. And so she wanted to be able to work things out. But I said, "Well, how about if he joins us?" And he didn't really want to join us, but he agreed to have to join us by Zoom. And he spent the whole time verbally beating her up. And she
Wow.
sat there through the whole thing. Now, I had told her, she had told me that she really wanted to get back with him, and so we allowed him to say everything he needed to say, which it was so hard to even sit with that, but she wanted this relationship so badly that she was willing to do that. But it also, from the therapy point of view, people talk about their spouses. Everyone thinks that their spouse needs to be fixed. Everyone thinks that they're fine and it's the other person. When I went to therapy with my husband, I'm like, fix him. And he's like, fix her. We all think that the way that we think is the best way and that the other person has the problem. But there was no accountability. There was so much anger. There was so much nastiness. And when she was live with me and we had to coerce him to join us by Zoom, and unless she did A, B, C, D, whatever, he wasn't going to engage. He was just horrible. It broke my heart to listen. But listen, you have to listen to the person. You have to be able to see both sides because you don't know. People may not mean to misrepresent themselves, but we all see through our own eyes, through our own filter. And when he left the Zoom camera and we spoke, I mean, it was clear that she had become very comfortable listening to all of the hurtful things that he would say. And still, she wanted to be in that relationship. And so I think it is not a healthy thing to do, but who am I to make a decision for someone else? My place, as much as I might want to, is to ask the question. So what is it about this person that you're feeling connected to? What is it that you want? What are you hoping for? What's it like for you to hear that? And in my opinion, it doesn't seem like he wants to work things out. And are you sure that's okay with you?
Is it, as I'm listening to you, I'm recalling, we're always chasing what we had in the beginning, right? Because the beginning, the love bombing is almost like a drug, right? And so for me, I was always chasing that first 6 months with him. Even though it was like, 6, 7 years down the road, I was still chasing that first 6 months. And I was like, I know he's got it in him because he had it the first 6 months that we met. So, is that why we kind of excuse the bad behavior later on? Because we're kind of wanting to get back to that sort of honeymoon stage before the mask comes off?
That's what everyone says. Pretty much that's the pattern, is that we move into, and I'm calling it wishful thinking, that we have this dream, we have this memory, we have this hope. And this particular person was talking about, you know, we had this experience at this time, and I don't know what happens, but he just switches. And if I could only get back to that, I know he loves me. And it's so sad, but it's true. But it's not just with narcissists that this happens. You think about conditioning, you think about Pavlov and the dogs, you think about the concept of conditioning. And I don't remember the exact term for it, but so pardon me if I don't say it right. I'm going to explain it the best that I can. But, if every time you hit a I don't know what it is, a bell, let's say, and every third time you hit that bell or do this thing, you get a treat. You know that after 3 times you're gonna hit a bell, you're gonna get a treat. If you never get a treat, you're gonna know you're never gonna get a treat. But if you get a treat after the 3rd time, and then you don't get it until after the 10th time, and then you get it after the 1st time, then you anticipate, yes, I'm going to get this. This is going to happen. And I think that's what happens with the narcissist is that because they are in control, they are controlling the relationship, and it's an intentional thing that they're doing, but you don't know. It takes you or the partner, it takes a very long time for a person to become aware that this is a pattern. And often they need somebody to point it out to them. So to answer your question in a really long-winded way, yes, that's what happens with people is that we do think it's us. We do hold on to that dream, but it isn't specific. It's heightened with narcissist, but in any kind of relationship that's inconsistent, it's the same thing.
There were two things in there that you said that were just kind of just brilliant and triggered a thought. One is they try to give you just enough hope to hang on. Um, I know, you talked about this. I had a moment with my ex where I called the A plus B equals C moment, where she would say, if you do this and you do this, A plus B, I'll do this. And the reality was you play this game. It's kind of like the bell. You play this game with them, or you go, okay, I'm going to do A and I do B, but they'll never do C. And then you go back again. Sometimes we call this moving the target. And they go, okay, well, I didn't mean A. I meant secret letter D. So if you do D plus B, you'll get C. And then they don't do C again. They go, oh, no, wait, you didn't do it. You need F plus Z. And if you give me F plus Z, I'll give you C. And by doing this, they're painting an equation for you of hope that this could work. And what you described also, and I think Padideh talked about here in large part, is you hope you on our podcast, I call it the happily ever after, right? I wanted the happily ever after. And I had this moment, like you described it so eloquently, where I felt like I know she loves me because I remember this. I always, like Padideh said, I always was trying to get back to this place where we were in love. I was trying to get back to this place where I felt like she was engaged with me. I was trying to get back. And the hard moment for me, I think the hardest moment in the healing process was realizing that never existed. That it was a game up front, that the love bombing was real, but the intent was not. My love was real. And I know that without question. But her love for me was manipulative. And I use love in air quotes in that particular situation. The way she treated me was manipulation in order to get into a relationship with me so she could use and abuse me. That was her idea of love, I guess. But going back to that place and discovering that what I believed was real, but that what she believed and what she thought about those early days, there was never that place that I wanted to get back to, never really existed. It's a mind fuck. I don't know how else to say it, but it really is. You realize that place didn't exist, and I think that helped me a lot with the trauma bonding, which made me want to get back to her, which I feel like I was in for 25 years. And that's got to be a difficult place to help people find, and a difficult place to help people grow from, because it was a growing experience for me without question. So we got people who are trauma bonded, and what are some of the other things? We talked about PTSD. Tell us about some of those folks. I saw a meme with Jordan Peterson, one of Jordan Peterson's memes not long ago, and he was talking about PTSD, and he said, it's not that people hurt you that's the problem. He said, it's not, that doesn't create PTSD. He said, but when you encounter somebody who's malevolent, who's hurting you, who's intentionally doing so, who this is kind of their default setting. He says, you're lucky if you come out alive in those kinds of situations. And a lot of people wind up with PTSD from those spaces, particularly in narcissistic abuse. So could you describe for us, we'll talk about PTSD, talk about what it is and what it's not, and what those people who have it look like when they visit you?
So PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. And, you know, I'm going to introduce the concept of hypnosis right now because that's what it is. When a person has a trauma, they, in a certain way, dissociate because whatever it is unbearable in that moment. They can't make sense of it. And so they kind of disengage. Now, everyone has trauma. Some people have smaller traumas. Some people have bigger traumas. What might be a huge trauma for me, maybe nothing to you. But when a person is in an experience that is completely shocking or devastating or distressing, unexpected, they dissociate. And when people dissociate, they enter a hypnotic state. I mean, they're in the hypnotic state, and that's why they dissociate. And when you are overloaded, overwhelmed, which is what happens when you have, an experience that's so distressing. It doesn't really matter if you're watching a car crash and people are thrown from the car. It doesn't matter if you're walking into your bedroom and your spouse is with someone else. It doesn't matter if you're watching somebody get shot. Like, whatever it is, it's so extreme or horrific that you can't process it fully in that moment, and you become so overwhelmed, so overloaded that you dissociate. And so when a person is overwhelmed, they become suggestible. And the conscious mind isn't really in control anymore. The subconscious mind, the emotions are what is driving everything. And in that moment, what happens is we make assumptions, belief systems are formed in that moment. So, and they may be accurate or they may not be accurate. But in that moment, the experience is so intense that you're left with this feeling, I'm not safe, or men can't be trusted, or women can't be trusted, or people can't be trusted. And in this relationship thing that happens when you get to that place, those belief systems, they become embedded, and they interfere. You are left with that kind of belief system. And then you have all the evidence in the world, like, well, relationships aren't safe, or women are all drama, or, men aren't trustworthy, or whatever it is. And that is a subconscious mind. And so PTSD, it's more than just the experience. It's the experience plus it's the internalization of our interpretation and who we are in relation to ourselves and a person and in the world. And that, to me, is what PTSD is. And so we could talk on the conscious level about it. We could talk on the conscious level about what this person did. And, again, we're moving in and out. If you have that trauma experience with a person, and sometimes they're nice and sometimes they're not, it's a conflict in the mind. Who is this person? I can't be fooled. Was I fooled? Am I fooled? And we're going to go back and forth in that place. That's why we stay so long in that relationship, because they know how to pull you in. They don't really want you to go. And you want the relationship of your dreams, and they know how to make it that way. And they keep dangling that carrot. if you would only do this, I remember someone, if you would only do this, or you need to be able to do that. And the person tries to do it, and then they would say, I never said that. Or, that's not what I meant, or you're making that up, or some other crazy making thing that they do. And so what that does is it keeps you in self-doubt. It keeps you feeling insecure, and you feel like there's something wrong with you because they're so certain the way they deliver things. And so it doesn't just end when you say goodbye to the person. Now you're left with all of that stuff. And we could talk about it on the conscious level, but the conscious level is your logic, your reason, and your willpower. But all of your conscious level is driven by the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is your associations, your expectations, your imagination. So it's all your history, the past, the experiences that happen, what you're hoping for. That is the real driver. And unless you can soothe the subconscious mind, educate the person on the emotional level, rebuild their trust in themselves, rebuild their understanding, because they're afraid after that. They have trust issues after that. They're hypervigilant after that. They're vulnerable and they don't want to put themselves ever in that situation again. And then they lose. Then the perpetrator, the narcissist, whatever it is, they win. And so my job is to help them come back to a place where they could trust themselves enough to know that there are good people and there are people who aren't really good, and that to know that they will recognize those people very quickly so they won't ever be in that situation again. And to me, that is the end goal.
Do you ever recommend books, like a book for somebody to read? Because, like, as you're talking right now, first of all, I can listen to you forever. Your voice is so soothing. That's number
It
1,
really is.
right?
Thank
And then number 2 is like, do you recommend maybe at the end of this segment you can maybe recommend a book or 2, because the trusting yourself again is what I had a problem with.
Yeah,
Like, I knew for certain this person was wrong for me, and it took me 8 years of dating before I met my current and final husband. That's a joke we have on the show.
it is.
And so it took me 8 years just because I didn't trust myself to make another bad decision or good decision. So anyway, that's, as you were talking, that's what I was thinking of.
And it's interesting. I ultimately the end result of narcissistic abuse, as both of you kind of eloquently put, not trusting yourself, is you wind up questioning reality. So everything, it's like everything you ever known, I used the word mindfuck earlier because I don't have another word to describe it. Some will hear that and hear vile. Some will hear it and hear, I just like, I don't, it's like this word I don't have words for. And it's questioning of reality, and the expansiveness of that reality is ridiculous, because you've thought you've entered into this beautiful relationship with somebody, and then you realize, wait a minute, I never had that from the beginning. My feelings were genuine, but theirs were not. And then it's complicated with family, and it's complicated with friends, and it's complicated with faith, and it's complicated with work. And I've known men who dated a narcissist for 3 months and were wrecked so badly that they had trouble working. Others who were involved for 25 or 30 years, who somehow managed to continue to do that, even though their trauma was big. So it's not even a length of time thing. The questioning reality, the gaslighting that the narcissist brings to the table I think we've said here basically you wonder who you are. You wonder whether you're the narcissist. You tend to blame yourself. And I can remember these things distinctly for years and years trying to fix myself, like Padideh said, so that the marriage would survive. And I'd run harder at A plus B so I would get C, and it never worked. And I go F plus Z, and that wouldn't work. And I kept trying something else, and ultimately these things would never work. And you have to resolve, and you have to find this place in yourself where you go, wait a minute, maybe I'm not the problem. Maybe this is not just about me. I'm in a situation that has a reality, and I need to understand that reality, and I need to understand it also at not just an intellectual level, Laura, like you were saying. There's this you're dealing with the intellect, but then you're also dealing with the subconscious, which is more the emotional center and those kinds of things that deal with deep-seated, emotionally held beliefs. And somehow you have to wade somebody through all of this and bring them back to emotional health. And I'll tell you this too. I don't know that we've ever said this on the podcast before, Padideh, but this is a long journey.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I'm still discovering things. I'm still learning things. I'm still having to crash through things that and maybe perhaps unwilling to in some places as well because of my own fears or my own questioning of reality. I've had to go back and go, what faith was I born into and my family? Because the collateral damage from this is bigger than just my marriage. And there are other people acting out as well who have similar to narcissistic tendencies. And you put all this together, and not only is it a mind fuck, it's a clusterfuck. And it really is problematic for anybody who's gone through this. So Laura, talk to us about hypnotherapy and how, because you have lots of tools in your arsenal. You're a therapist, you do marriage counseling, and you have what would be a standard set of tools for a therapist. And I've told people before that sitting in a session with you, to me, is like watching Michelangelo paint. It's your best gift, and I adore you and respect you like none other. But tell us how hypnotherapy gets you to some of those places. Because some people think of hypnotherapy, and particularly in the Christian community, where Padideh and I have both been a part of that, they think it's like voodoo magic. And I don't think that at all. I think it's more like prayer, to be honest with you. And it's like somebody praying over you for your constant best. And I know you're a believer in God, and you very much feel like God is at work in those moments and giving you things to say and things to speak that would be meaningful to help change the subconscious. But tell me how this works. How does hypnotherapy help somebody through a narcissistic victimization and through PTSD and these other traumas that you encounter when somebody visits?
Okay, so I wrote a bunch of notes as you were both talking, and so I wanna address it if I can systematically,
Please do.
but I don't leave, anybody hanging. Um, so Padideh, you said, about books, and that ties into conscious and subconscious for me because, you know, you could read a book and it's real helpful to understand that it's not just me, there are other people, and here are some tools, and that's really good. I wrote a book called Accidental Hypnosis. Ex- it, you know, well, you could look it up if you want. Um, but it talks about what hypnosis really is and where you see it. You asked the question, John, about, how does hypnosis help and about the myths around hypnosis. And hypnosis is a state between awake and asleep. You go through it every day. Before you fall asleep, you enter that state. As you awaken, you move through that state. They even have names for it, the hypnopompic and hypnagogic state. And so it's a real state. It's not something I'm imposing on you. And when you're in that state, your analyzing ability, it's not really as strong. So if, let's say, I'm going to use an example that doesn't apply, but let's say that you wanted to stop smoking and you knew you wanted to stop smoking, but you like smoking because you think it relaxes you. Now, the reason you think it relaxes you is because when you are stressed, you reach for a cigarette and you take a break. But you don't know that on the conscious level. You just think, I reach for that cigarette and I feel better. You're not breaking it down in those ways. But if I said that to you on the conscious level, you would blow it off. But when you're in that state between awake and asleep, I could say things to you that you would consider, that you would not consider during the conscious state. Because, when we want to change, we're in conflict with ourselves. One part of us wants this, and the other part wants that. Or one part of us wants this, but doesn't want that. Whatever the change is, that's why we're not changing, because we have a conflict. So if I want to lose weight, or if I want to make my relationship better, and that means that I have to give in to everything that my narcissistic spouse says, and I have to bury my feelings, my needs, my hurt, well, I'm in a conflict. I want this, but I don't want that. I want things to be better, but I can't stuff things anymore. Whatever it is that we're talking about, that's the conflict. So what hypnotherapy does, if it's done by somebody who understands how different people learn, whether a person's had trauma or not. I mean, there are a lot of things. You could take a 30-hour training and call yourself a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist, but you're not equipped really to help somebody with trauma like that. But if you find the right person to help you, then what they're going to do is they're going to help you enter that state between awake and asleep, which is just kind of your eyes are closed. Like even now, if you were to close your eyes and I were to talk to you, and I would talk a little slower like I'm doing now, and I would tell you basic things like, it feels good to close your eyes. It feels good to rest. And if I were to tell you those things, you would become more comfortable. And in that time, then based on everything that you told me, like let's say you'd say to me, I'm done with this relationship, but I can't stay away. I want to say goodbye to this person, but I can't stay away. And I would ask you, all right, are you sure that you want to stay away? And we would have a whole conversation about what gets in the way of you staying away and all of those things. And then in that state, I would remind you of who you are, how magnificent you are, that I would remind you of the things that you would need to know to begin to relax a little bit. I would remind you that there's a part of you that recognizes that this isn't healthy for you. And it's okay to notice that. It's okay to make a decision to serve you, a decision that's healthy and right for you. And so I would be giving you suggestions based on what you want. And it's not like pulling up all the trauma. You're not, making you go through all these things and relive it. No, on the conscious level, you're telling me, I don't like this and I don't like that and it scares me and I'm ready to go. Or you're telling me, which people do sometimes, I want, like that person that I spoke about, I want to be able to be a better partner. Listen, sometimes people need to stay until they're ready to go. And as much as I want to pull them out of there and shake them, I can't do it. I have to meet them where they are because I can't make them move. I can only support their movement when they're ready. And what happens is if I could listen to you and if I could support you, then now we're building trust. Now there's an experience that you have with trust with me. And so I'm modeling that you could trust someone. And so that's the beginning of it. So when you work with hypnosis, we're not doing voodoo. We're accessing the part of your natural life, the state between awake and asleep. And instead of you putting junk in your mind accidentally, oh, it's me, or I'm not safe, or everybody is drama and there are no good people anymore, or whatever the story is that has become your truth, I'm going to help you readdress that, dissolve that a little bit, have more faith in yourself, and I'm going to do it lovingly, supporting what your goal is. And because it's bypassing the logical mind, it's that same state as the trauma hits, that sort of disassociated state. It works quicker and it works through repetition. Every day you talk to yourself, every day. But you're not paying attention to what you're saying to yourself, and you're reinforcing the same old negative things. That's what we do. And we do it because the mind wants to protect you. The mind is going to continue to try to protect you. Oh, don't get in that situation again. It's dangerous. But you don't realize that. I realize that because I'm trained to know that. And so I have to remind you. And the more I remind you, the stronger the suggestion becomes. And so the laws of hypnosis are repetition and association. But we're fighting against your own repetition and your own association from valid, real experiences. And that's the hardest part, is that you have evidence that, that people aren't safe, that all women or all men or all, it becomes bigger than life. And your experience is accurate. I can't say it's not, but I could say that is specific to those people. And as you learn, you've already outgrown that. And so you're moving towards, you recognize it quicker. And so it is a process of retraining your mind, rebuilding faith in yourself, rebuilding hope, rebuilding the fact that you could trust yourself. It's a process, but it's the quickest and most gentle process if it's done right. So I don't know if that answers it. I know it's very
Makes all kinds
long-winded.
it makes all kinds of sense. I think, if I understand you correctly, and some people's idea of hypnotherapist is what they see a sideshow do, and I don't think that's hypnotherapy anyways, or hypnosis. That's peer pressure, getting people to jump up and down in front of an audience. But what I think if I understand correctly, that you've kind of tackled two things. One, we're talking about the intellect versus the emotional center, and people in trauma make decisions about themselves and about their world based on an experience. And you're so fond of saying to me all the time, "Let me reframe that for you." And that's your way of saying, "Jon, you're a dumbass. Wait a minute."
Do I
No,
really say, let me reframe that for you? Because I don't
you
remember
do.
ever saying that.
You
So I'm
do. You
like,
say
oh
it to me
boy.
all the time. Let me reframe that for you. Let me help you. Let me help you understand what might else be going on. And it's your way of telling me, because you hear it from my intellect, you hear it from my emotion, and we make decisions on these situations at an intellectual level, at an intellectual level and an emotional level, and sometimes these things are just flat out incorrect. Um, I
It's
can remember.
accurate for you in that moment because it's your experience. We have to honor our experiences. And I mean, that's how we evaluate the world
Mhm.
and keep ourselves safe. That's how we do it.
Yeah.
So, um,
So like my ex at one point in time, we had a car that had a transmission that went bad on a trip we were on it to Florida. So we wound up having to tow the car away and buy a new car while we were on vacation in Florida. And ever since then, anytime something goes wrong with one of the cars or one of the kids' cars, oh, it must be the transmission. And there are about 1,000,000 other parts on the car that could fail at the time, but it keeps us pigeonholed into thinking that something may be taking place when it's not actually taking place, and it sounds like what you're saying, and again, this is my experience too, is that you're helping people consider not just at an intellectual level, but also at an emotional level and maybe a spiritual level. Let's go that deep, right? We'll call spiritual the deepest, emotional kind of just on top of that, and maybe intellectual not so deep perhaps, but you wind up helping people understand truths about themselves, truths about their situation, truths about perhaps their environment and the people they encounter and things like that, so that it begins to change your emotional and perhaps spiritual self, um, in moments where you are suggestible. I can tell you that from my experience that I've had nothing but positive things. In fact, you tell me every time the things that are good for you, you keep for life, right? This what do you say at the beginning of each one, right? You need to tell people this, right? Go ahead, tell them what you say.
that you're only suggestible to the things that offer you benefit, and anything less just pulls away. Like, you are the only thinker in your mind, and you're only going to accept suggestions that are healthy and right for you. Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly it. And then at the end, you say those things stay with you for life, and you have that conversation as well. And I know for a fact for me, it's been very beneficial. Um, and and I thought as I participated, it was more like directed prayer over me more than anything else. That was my framework for my faith journey. That is what I said. And again, faith impacts things. I've never also found anything. You and I are both in different faith traditions. And yet I've never found anything that challenged my faith tradition that you've ever given me as well. And people who are good at this um, can help you within your own faith journey too.
So, for me, when I do hypnotherapy, it's not just me in the room. I mean, if you looked in the room, it would be me and the person, but I know that there are things that come to my mind that don't come from me, they come through me. I feel like I am divinely guided when I move into that state with you, even though I'm taught not to go into hypnosis. It's a channel, okay? I think of it as a channel, and I think of it as like a channel to God, and I feel like and believe that I'm not in the room alone. Like, my mentor, um, I have her lamp. She passed away in 2019, and she was like an angel. Like, she always knew what to say, and everybody loved her, and everybody said, "Oh, she's definitely an angel," and it's true. She was an angel. And so I have her lamp there, and that could be a hypnotic suggestion that, you know, I'm not alone and that she's guiding me. But I also do believe that more than it's more than her that's guiding me. All the people that, okay, so now I'm going to get a little weird here, but hey, I'm already weird. So I believe that there is the highest part of all of us that when we leave our bodies or when we um, move from this world or before we ever came to this world and when we go back into being like light and love, that that part of us is wants to do better, that we can't see in our human selves. Like, when I'm pissed off, and if I'm pissed off at you, I can't see I'm not loving. I'm just an angry, um, B word. Because the emotions are running me, and so I'm not my best when I'm angry. People aren't their best when they're desperate, and I do believe that when a person has a narcissistic disorder or any kind of disorder of that type, that there is underneath it drivers that we can't see, that I do believe that at some point they wish that they could shift. Maybe it takes for them to get to wherever they've come from, or before they're born or after, but I do feel like when I am in the room with someone, that there's God there with me, but there are also all these people who are trying to help that person. I don't know. I I never really explained it, so I'm babbling a little bit, but that it's bigger than me. It's God and all the other people who could help, that are throwing thoughts out there that help me to find the right thing to say.
Hmm. Interesting. That's fascinating. The Bible talks about kind of like this great company of people kind of looking down on earth, and I think about that as you describe it.
And I also think, like, again, John, that I have my school of hypnosis, and for me, this is what I believe about that it isn't just my school. It was my mentor's school, but it isn't even just her school. It's all the people before her and all the people who will come after, who are wanting to make sure that people are equipped to do this work with the highest outcome for the client. And so I I I know it's bigger than me. I know that that school is meant to live on in a bigger way, because it's not just my school. It's like, driven by all these people who want the best for everyone. So
Yeah.
again, I know that's weird, but that's what I think.
So, I definitely believe in hypnotherapy because there was a time in my life when I was afraid of heights. And the reason why I was afraid of heights, the hypnotherapist kind of went through this with me, was because of something that happened, a trauma that happened in my childhood. And so because of that, I was trying to be controlling, and when you're up, I was going on the, Golden Gate Bridge with my mom, and I couldn't do it, so I had to, like, go to the side, and she's the one that encouraged me to do the hypnotherapy and paid for it all because she was, like, so scared that I was so scared. Anyway, I'm someone that really believes in hypnotherapy. I do believe that it worked. I don't have a fear of heights anymore, and it really was, like, I think it was, like, 3 to 5 sessions, and as soon as we figured out why I was in fear, and, she told me things like, "You're not gonna fall off the bridge, like, that's not gonna happen." I remember this, and I was a teenager when I went through hypnotherapy. So, if there's someone that's listening and you've read all the books, you've watched the YouTubes, you've followed John and I for many, many years, consider, maybe this is the next step to your healing or recovery journey from the narcissist. So, give yourself permission to explore this.
Laura, I have to ask you one more question before we call it. Um, have you ever had a narcissist in your therapy session? And have you ever helped them through narcissistic personality disorder through hypnotherapy?
I have had narcissists in the room. Um, Not many, but I remember one man, and by the time he came to me, he had he had he woke up before he came to me, and he was trying to repair,
Hmm.
and he didn't really know how. He only he was so apologetic to his partner. It was like he woke up, and
Wow.
it was a beautiful thing. But by that time, she was so angry. I mean, she was ready to go. Sometimes you can't, when you've crossed that line, you can't go back.
Right.
But sometimes that wishful thinking and that desire and the thing that they've been holding out for is now finally there. And can they come back from that? And so all I was able to do with that person was guide them. Like, they would call me because they had come in as a couple, and he would call me when he couldn't understand something, and I would
Right.
help him to, like, make sense of it. But the other narcissists, other people who are narcissists that were in the room, um, there weren't a lot of them. That but they weren't. I can't even say for sure that they were narcissists. It's not really fair for me to say that. And really, I have to say that there's someone who I know who had a narcissistic relationship, according to him. Again, I haven't met this spouse, um, but that is what he believes. And this person now sees everything through those eyes. And so everyone who there are these characteristics, this list of things that make a person a narcissist. And if you have one or two of those things, then automatically to this person, they're a narcissist, which is really dangerous for everybody
Oh,
and
yeah.
also for that person. But that's what happens is you get stuck in that box and you see things through those eyes. And so I don't like when um when that just becomes the buzzword and everybody who has a couple of traits or whatever fits in that box. And I'm seeing it all over. It's completely um it's just not healthy for
Right.
anyone to be looking at it
Yeah,
that
there's
way.
there's a difference between somebody who's self-centered, and everybody has self-centeredness in them, and somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder. There's a marked difference
And a
between the
person would
2.
say he would say, well, you know, well, I think that that spouse is a narcissist. They're a narcissist because do they ever apologize? No. Well, that's a sign of a narcissist. So they latch on to a few different things, but not, and it comes across very know-it-all-y, but I know underneath it, it's fear. I
Yeah.
know underneath it, it's that, their experience, but w we always think we're right. We always believe we're right because we feel it. We think that if we feel it, it means it's true. That's the downside to, a label. I think we have to be real careful about that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We also say that a lot, Laura, on our show that we're not therapists. We give the disclaimer, and somebody could have traits that sound like narcissism, but it's not the full blown one. And so when people come to me as a divorce attorney, you can imagine they know that I've got a podcast, right? And they're like, my spouse is a narcissist. Doesn't matter if it's a male or female. I hear this all the time, and I kind of say, well, were they diagnosed? Let's go through some of the traits, and so hopefully now I can send them to you. But the reality is, just because they're toxic doesn't mean that they're a narcissist.
Absolutely.
But we also don't want to invalidate their experience. So that's the other thing. So I think it's a fine line for Jon and I. But are so happy to have you on the show. Jon has
Absolutely.
been telling me about you for years now, and he's like, "You've got to meet Laura. You've got to meet Laura." So so happy to have you. I mean, Jon and I, the entire time you were talking, we are like shaking our heads. Yes. Everything you said just really resonated with us and
Yeah.
hopefully our listeners as well.
Yep. And,
Thank you so much for, this invitation, and also, there are so many people who just need a place to vent. They just need somebody understands them and you offer that to them. And so you're doing good things and keep up the
Thank
good
you.
work.
Thank you. And Laura, like she said, she's not just a hypnotherapist. She's a teacher of and trainer of hypnotherapists as well. She's the owner of the professional Hypnosis Institute here in Atlanta. It's the only certified hypnosis institute in Georgia, if I'm correct.
State authorized.
State authorized. There we go.
School of Hypnosis.
And you can find her there at professionalhypnosisinstitute.com if you may be interested in a career in hypnotherapy. She's able to go do that. And Laura also does her own therapy as well. You can find her at Laura Temin, that's TEMIN.com. And she's able to go help you there as well. And she does therapy inside the state lines of Georgia, and outside it's coaching. So you can reach out to her there too. So we're going to call it another day, and we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time. Laura, thank you so much, and Padideh, as always, thank you so much for your insight and for being here as well. It's been a wonderful time together, and we'll see you again next time. And we hope that you have a wonderful day and a wonderful week, and stay narcissist-free.
Thank you for listening to the Narcissist Abuse Recovery Channel. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To hear other episodes or read the associated blogs, visit www.narcissistabuserecoverychannel.com and be sure to follow us on Instagram with the handle narc.podcast. The guest views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are their own. The information presented is for general informational purposes only and is not intended to be legal advice. The co-hosts are not licensed therapists. Seek professional help, as information is often state-specific. The Narcissist Abuse Recovery Channel is produced in studios in California and Georgia.